JJ, I am tired of the sound bites. I am tired of the memes. I am tired of trying to take an issue that is so incredibly complex and break it down into one sentence and one graphic summaries. And I wanted to take a minute and kind of share my thoughts as to what's going on both sides of the spectrum, keeping in mind the whole time our show today is asking people, how often do you honestly take the time to see the other person's perspective? So let's take just a minute and let's break this down into two camps. Let's break it down into, we'll call it the kneelers camp and the anti-kneelers camp. And on the kneelers camp, what we are hearing by and large from this side, or from the people who are supporting this side, is they are saying that their freedom of speech, that their First Amendment rights are being violated. And this is what is hyping this whole thing up from that side, and people are furious that these people's freedom of speech is being trampled on. In fact, people are in Congress are kneeling on the floor of the House of Representatives and getting frustrated with the President of the United States, who is stepping on these people's First Amendment right. And I got news for you. Nobody is stepping on anybody's First Amendment right. Nobody is stepping on their freedom of speech. The freedom of speech says that we have the right in this wonderful country of ours to say what we want, when we want, and we cannot be persecuted for that. We cannot be arrested. We cannot be tortured. We cannot go sent to labor camps like happens in so much of the world. That doesn't happen in the United States. But that doesn't mean that there are not consequences for the things that we say. If you are going to do something as bold as to take a knee during the national anthem of the United States, and you are doing so while on TV working for a private corporation which you represent, and that corporation is trying to represent certain things, your employer has the right to terminate you or discipline you based on the things that you say. If I right now were to go off on some horrible racist rant, or I were to say something horrible, I wouldn't be arrested, but it'd be the last time you would ever see me here, because I would never be allowed here again. I would be fired from this show. So I think the first lesson is the freedom of speech is not being trampled on. People need to step back and really think about what they're saying on that side, and understand that we do have a freedom of speech, but that our words can have consequences. So let's go to the other side. Let's go to the anti-kneelers. These are the people who are frustrated with all the people who are kneeling during these games and protesting. And what they're saying, again, in all these memes and all these sound bites that we're hearing on the 24-hour news channels, they are saying that the people who are kneeling hate the United States. They are anti-American. They hate our veterans. They hate our military. They should go and move somewhere else, because how dare you kneel during the national anthem? And I personally got sucked into this myself early on. And then I took a minute trying to keep in mind, trying to be on that path to greatness. And I took a minute and I listened and I read and I did research. And I came to understand that we can't judge these people as bad Americans because they are doing this. By and large, they don't hate the United States. They sure don't hate the military. Most of them are proud Americans. They love what they do. These are people who have a platform. They have a national platform in front of millions and millions of people every single week. And they see an opportunity to have a voice for who they view as the oppressed, to stand up for racial injustice. And in their world, since they can't do it in the middle of a football game, they can do it by kneeling before or during the anthem. That is going to get a reaction, and then they can explain out of that reaction why it is that they're doing that. Now, unfortunately, their message has been completely fogged over because everybody's just so upset that they're doing this during the anthem. But in their mind, they are not protesting our country. In fact, Colin Kaepernick, when he first started this, he sat down, as you remember, on the bench or on a chair. And after that happened, a U.S. SEAL team member met with him and said, you know what, I understand what you're trying to do. I do. And I understand you're not trying to disrespect the United States. Let me give you one piece of advice. If instead of sitting, you could kneel, we would be a lot more okay with that. And he said, you know what, I can do that. And he did. And because, again, the message, they hate the fact that their message has been clouded, that they hate the United States. Now, look, I'm not taking a position on one side or the other here. I'm trying to show that on both sides, there are massive misrepresentations that are clouding over what each side is really upset about here. And so, again, in the topic of today's show, are we taking the time? Is the United States taking the time? Are our friends taking the time to really see the other side's perspective before you go repeating these sound bites, repeating these memes, before you go destroying your relationships are you really understanding where they are coming from? That's my 2 cents.
You're done.